Welcome to The Pulse, your ultimate source for all things gaming. I'm June, and today we've got some massive updates you won't want to miss. From surprising layoffs to game-changing releases, we're breaking down all the latest stories that are shaking up the gaming world. On today's episode, we're diving into Nintendo's AI crackdown on Mario fan art, Blizzard's ambitious StarCraft shooter revival, and the massive layoffs hitting Activision Blizzard and Nexon. But that's not all. Throne and Liberty dominated the early access charts for a bit, and Square Enix's latest move is causing waves in the DEI debate within games. It's a packed episode, and we're here to bring you the pulse of the gaming world. Let's get to it. Let's kick things off with Nintendo's legal crusade. This time, they're targeting AI-generated images of their iconic character Mario. So what's happening here? In a bold new move, Nintendo is leveraging AI-powered tools to crack down on images of Mario created by other AI systems. Sounds like something out of a sci-fi plot, right? According to The Verge, Nintendo has hired Tracer, a company specializing in AI-driven copyright enforcement, to file takedown notices across platforms like X. Their target? Dozens of posts showing Mario in some unexpected and frankly some hilarious situations. One image in particular caught the internet's attention. It showed Mario sipping on a drink and smoking on the beach. Not exactly the family-friendly image Nintendo likes to cultivate. But fan art wasn't spared either, as some creators found their work removed with little explanation. So this isn't Nintendo's first rodeo. Recently, they filed a lawsuit against the creators of Palworld, showing that they're really serious about protecting their IPs. But this new twist with AI is raising all sorts of questions. The real debate now is whether AI-driven tools like Tracer's Copyright Enforcer are fair. We're in a world where AI is generating content at lightning speed, blurring the lines between creativity and copyright infringement. Nintendo hasn't commented yet on their broader stance toward AI-generated content, but the message is clear. Mess with Mario, and you're gonna get in trouble. For fans and creators, this crackdown feels like a warning shot. With companies using AI to police content, navigating copyright laws is becoming more complicated than ever. So what do you think? Are AI-generated Mario images fair game, or does Nintendo have a right to slam the brakes on these creations? Let us know in the comments below. So Nintendo's latest target in the ongoing battle against emulation is Ryujinx, a popular open-source Switch emulator that gained traction for its ability to bring Switch games to portable platforms like smartphones and handheld gaming PCs. Ryujinx has been forced to cease development and remove all downloads after Nintendo reached out with a termination agreement. Ryujinx is the emulator that stood out for its compatibility and performance, and fans were excited about its many possibilities. However, Nintendo's crackdown brought the project to a screeching halt. This is becoming a familiar pattern. If you remember, just a few months ago, Nintendo shut down another well-known emulator called Yuzu. While the website is still up for now, the emulator itself is no longer available. The latest move has sparked a lot of discussion in the emulation community. Some say that the emulators hurt hardware sales, while others see them as essential for preserving games and making them more accessible. Despite its sudden end, Ryujinx left its mark, but this situation serves as a reminder of how vulnerable the emulation scene really is. While Nintendo's actions have stirred debate, Square Enix is making headlines for a different reason, cutting ties with Sweet Baby Inc. over DEI in gaming. Let's dive into that next. In a pretty bold move, Square Enix has cut ties with Sweet Baby Inc., a company known for consulting on inclusivity and diversity in gaming. Sweet Baby Inc. has worked with many studios helping to create more inclusive characters and stories, but Square Enix seems to be shifting away from their influence, choosing to prioritize fan feedback and creative freedom over what critics call forced inclusivity. The break is noticeable in Square Enix's recent releases, such as Final Fantasy VII Remake, where the focus has been on cool, inviting characters rather than strict diversity guidelines. And a little side note, in Final Fantasy VII, the original that released back in 1997, there were a diverse amount of characters. Anyways, this decision is already stirring up debate in the gaming community, with some applauding Square Enix for listening to fans while others criticize the move as a step backward. It's kinda interesting seeing how Square is being treated like the black sheep in this whole thing, while other companies like Bandai Namco are sticking to their guns, insisting that inclusivity is what modern audiences want. Following the success of titles like Final Fantasy VII and XVI, Square seems to believe that character design and storytelling should take priority over ticking diversity boxes. If you're a fan of shooters and StarCraft, this one's definitely for you. It looks like Blizzard Entertainment is working on a new StarCraft shooter. According to Jason Schreier's book Play Nice and an IGN podcast, veteran developer Dan Hay, who previously worked on Ubisoft's Far Cry series, is leading the charge. This isn't Blizzard's first attempt at a StarCraft shooter. They've tried twice before, with the ill-fated StarCraft Ghost and Project Nova. Both projects were ultimately cancelled, leaving StarCraft fans a little bit disappointed. But this time, with Hay at the helm, fans are hopeful that Blizzard can finally deliver a shooter set in the iconic universe. This is some pretty exciting stuff. Blizzard's renewed focus on StarCraft could be a game changer. With StarCraft Remastered and StarCraft 2 campaigns now available on Game Pass, there's a lot of excitement about what's to come. Will this shooter succeed where the others failed? I mean, only time will tell. But it's a project we're definitely going to keep our eye on. Hey, here's an interesting fact. Merriam-Webster just added 200 new words, including the word dungeon crawler. For those of you unfamiliar with the term, it refers to a game where players explore dungeons, usually filled with monsters, traps, and loot. Been a staple in gaming for decades, and now it's officially recognized in the dictionary. Language, just like gaming, is always evolving. Ubisoft France is facing a strike organized by the French Video Game Workers Union, the STJV. The strike comes in response to Ubisoft's new return to office policy, which mandates that employees work in the office at least 3 days a week. The union claims that Ubisoft introduced this policy without consulting workers and has sparked outrage among employees who had hoped for more flexible work arrangements. In addition to demanding informal remote work agreements, the union is also calling for better pay and the end of alleged gender pay gaps within Ubisoft. The strike follows a previous protest earlier this year where hundreds of Ubisoft employees called for wage increases. With Ubisoft already facing disappointing sales and delays on big titles like Star Wars Outlaws and Assassin's Creed Shadows, the strike is another headache for the company. Will it lead to better working conditions? We'll have to wait and see. Hi-Rez Studios, the team behind Smite and Paladins, has announced layoffs as part of a reorganization effort to focus on the development of Smite 2. Stuart Chisholm, CEO of Hi-Rez Studios, described the layoffs as a heartbreaking decision, but he emphasized that the company needed to refocus its resources on ensuring the success of Smite 2. So it looks like the layoffs primarily affected the marketing teams, publishing, and staff at Evil Mojo, G&A, and Titanforge divisions. Teams working on the cosmetic skins and system features were also hit pretty hard. Despite the layoffs, Hi-Rez is moving forward with Smite 2 development, prioritizing gameplay, new modes, gods, and quality improvements. The company aims to keep Smite 2 relevant and engaging for players long into the 2030s. So while we're speaking of restructuring, Activision Blizzard is also making big changes, with layoffs hitting their mobile gaming division. Activision Blizzard has announced that nearly 400 employees in its Santa Monica and Irvine mobile gaming divisions will be laid off as part of a larger effort to eliminate redundancies. The cuts primarily affect corporate roles, software engineers, artists, and even high-level positions like the Director of Technology for World of Warcraft. These layoffs are in addition to over 1,000 job cuts that have occurred over the past year, including reductions in other major gaming units like Xbox and ZeniMax Media. Despite the restructuring, Activision Blizzard's major franchises like World of Warcraft, Call of Duty, and Candy Crush remain unaffected. And I've said this before, the layoffs are part of a broader trend in the gaming industry as companies adapt to changing market conditions. So if you haven't noticed yet, the big keyword here, or buzzword, is reorganization. Nexon America is undergoing a major reorganization as part of a plan to create a new Western development group. This group's primary focus will be on adapting Nexon's games for the Western market, and the company is increasing its focus on hyper-localization, basically focusing efforts down to local regions like cities, for example. But of course, along with this, that means that there's going to be layoffs. Nexon confirmed that a small number of employees will be affected, and severance packages are being offered. So this reorganization comes as Nexon aims to grow its revenue and operating income to about $5.2 billion by 2027. In addition to the layoffs, Nexon is actively hiring engineers, designers, and other roles for its new Los Angeles-based development team. While these layoffs are tough, Nexon is doubling down on its IP growth initiative, which aims to deliver snowball growth by building on established franchises like MapleStory. Alright, let's take a break from all this restructuring and talk about Throne and Liberty. Throne and Liberty made some waves during their early access debut. Developed by NCSoft back in 2011, the game has been a decade in the making, and its early access launch on Steam has attracted impressive player counts. According to SteamDB, Throne and Liberty hit a peak of nearly 54,000 players in its early access phase, even though it requires a paid entry. The developers responded to the high demand by increasing server capacity for American players, which has helped ease some of the congestion. Throne and Liberty is out now, free to play. Also, check out our first look gameplay where Harris shares his thoughts of the game. Devolver Digital is launching an exciting new indie label called Big Fan Games, and their goal is to create high-quality video game adaptations based on movies, TV shows, and comic books. Leading the label are industry veterans Lincoln Hirschberger, formerly of EA, and Amanda Cruz, who's previously worked as a creative director at Lionsgate Games. The team behind Big Fan Games is already working on 6 unannounced projects, and their mission is clear: to create adaptations that are just as engaging as their source material. Unlike other licensed games, they want to push the boundaries of the storytelling and gameplay to ensure that these adaptations don't just feel like a cheap cash grab. And speaking of raising the bar, Shoreline Games is also taking indie gaming to new heights with their impressive 2025 lineup. Shoreline Games, a new indie game publisher founded by veterans from Devolver Digital, Perfect World Entertainment, and more, has officially launched with an exciting lineup of indie titles slated for release in 2025. Shoreline aims to give smaller games the attention they deserve, highlighting systems-based games that focus on player choice and narrative. Their inaugural slate includes Nova Hearts from Lightbulb Crew, Sanatorium from Zeltglass, and Nornerism from Crimson Tales, all of which are set to release next year. Shoreline is also teasing 2 additional unannounced projects, which should have fans of indie games very excited. And that wraps up the news for this episode. Next up, new game releases. And that's a wrap on this week's episode of The Pulse, from Nintendo's bold moves to StarCraft's comeback and everything in between. There's never a dull moment in this industry, and as more surprises unfold, we'll be right here to bring you all the updates. Thanks for joining me today. Stay tuned, keep gaming, and we'll catch you in the next episode.